Romance, fantasy, and unforgettable love stories this year had it all. Let's dive into my absolute favorite reads from the year of 2024. In the number 10 spot, we have God Killer. So this book is one that I read at the beginning of the year and it has still stayed with me, and it is now at the end of 2024. In this book, we have a God killer, a child, and a knight. And at first, you end up meeting all the characters individually. You learn that the God and the child are somehow connected. The God Killer hates gods and that's her job. She goes around unaliving gods. And then the knight has to get to the destination that the other three are going through. Eventually they all meet, and the way that you just follow these people as they learn one another, their behaviors, and then try to figure out whether they can trust one another is insane. The end had my jaw on the floor, and I have yet to dive into book 2. I've tried multiple times, but this one just left me on such a high that even book 2 can't compare to it. So that's why it is in the number 10th spot. Eventually I will get around to reading book 2. Number 9 is going to be Blood Like Magic. So in Blood Like Magic, we have a female lead that is a witch, and she has to go through this trial to be able to gain access to her magical abilities, and it is something that all of her family members has had to do. She ends up failing her ritual that she had to do, and she is giving a second chance to do it again. Otherwise, her entire family is going to lose all of their magic. So she is given her task, and her task is that she has to find the love of her life and then kill him. The problem is that she has never been in love with before. So you follow along with her as 1, she falls in love, and 2, she navigates like coming of age and having to stop being such a people pleaser. Within her trial, she has to make a decision, and she's not good at making her own decisions, so that it is something that her character grows within the story, because she has to go from being very timid and never making any decisions for herself to then deciding what is best for her and having to stop listening to everybody else's and their opinions, but listening to her own opinions from within. Number 8 is going to go to Vicious by V.E. Schwab. So in this book, we have a male lead that is looking for revenge. Think of a very dark Marvel's movie, and that's the vibes that this book is going to give you. In this book, our male lead ends up escaping prison because he was trapped for unaliving somebody, and he goes back to the root of where everything started because he wants revenge against his college roommate, which is the reason why he is put behind bars. They did an experiment that went wrong, and the male lead was the one that was blamed for it. So he is very morally gray. Like, he is not a good person at all. You want to believe that he is a good person, but he just proves you wrong time and time again. Multiple people get killed within the story. I lost count at one point with how many people were just collateral damage for these two going at it the entire time. It absolutely blew my mind, and if anybody doesn't like this story, honestly, I would have to do a double take because everything was just so well crafted. I don't understand what you couldn't love about this. Maybe if you don't like books about superheroes, then I could understand, but I happen to love superheroes. Like, I'm a big Marvels nerd, so this book was just right up my alley, and because of that, it has stuck with me throughout the entire year. Number 7 is gonna go to Between Love and Loathing, and I absolutely love this book. So in the story, we have Dominic and Clara. So they're actually linked together because Clara's stepfather ends up passing away, and he was a billionaire. So he was working along with Dominic to create this resort, and when he passes away, everything is then left to Dominic, but there is one rule within the will that in order for Dominic to have all rights to the resort, Clara's bakery has to have room within the building. And Dominic and Clara, of course, can't stand one another. They absolutely detest each other. And you follow their love story as they get to work along with one another, because Clara has this image of what she wants her bakery to be, and Dominic has this image of what he wants the resort as a whole to look like, and is very much like cookie cutter, and she wants it to be more of a welcome, homey feeling when you walk into her bakery. The two are always butting heads and bickering. Clara also struggles with her disability of dealing with lupus, so it was a very heartful story. I absolutely love the characters, and this is one that I would reread for fun, just like as a cozy book. Number 6 is gonna go to Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. So this is a really funny story because I absolutely hated the first book in the series. I gave that a 1 star. I will never again reread that, but this book and they are standalone, so you don't have to read that one to read this one. Take my word for it. You can just skip that one. This one, however, is worth all of the hype. So in the story, we have Weston and Skylar. So Skylar is a pop artist, and she lost the motivation to write music because she has been writing music for someone else for a long time and benefiting other people, and feeling like people were just using her as a cash cow. So she escapes to the small town that Weston lives in, and she needs a place to crash. So while she's there, she ends up living in his residence because he has a small cabin that no one's living in. So she starts to live there, and he also has 2 younger kids. So the kids are actually the part that I love so much. They're the reason that this book means so much to me, because the children were the one that kind of like rehabilitated Skylar and made her love creating music again. I just absolutely love this book. It just made me feel so happy and made my heart feel so full. In the number 5 spot, we have Play Along by Liz Townford. I devoured this book, and anything else that I had to do in my life at the time that I was reading it, I would just pause it. Responsibilities, where? No idea where they were, because Play Along had all of my attention. So this book follows Kennedy and Isaiah gave Ryan Shea a run for his money. If you have not read The Right Move from the series, please do. If you haven't read the series at all, this is one that you must put on your TBR, especially if you love sports romance. So in the story, we have Isaiah and Kennedy. So the 2 of them do work for the same company. Isaiah is one of the baseball players for the team, and then Kennedy is one of the trainers. So Kennedy is being taken for granted at her job because of the lead doctor. He is a very misogynistic man, and he looks down upon women. The only reason that doctor hired Kennedy is because he thought Kennedy was a man. So when he learned that Kennedy was a woman, he couldn't fire her, so he ended up giving her like the lowest job he could. And enters Isaiah, who ends up falling in love with Kennedy immediately. So then the doctor tells her, if you fall in love with one of the players, I'm gonna fire you, because that was the only reason that he could think of to fire her. So of course Isaiah ends up falling in love with Kennedy, and he just can't make a move on her because Kennedy also has a fiance. So years later, Kennedy and her fiance end up breaking up. Isaiah is like, this is my chance, and one wild night in Vegas leads to them waking up and realizing that they're married. So then they go back home to their workplace, and Kennedy's job is on the line, and Isaiah just does everything that he can to make sure that his woman does not get fired, because he hates the team lead doctor. The things that this man does to make sure that she is cared for and feels loved just absolutely blew my mind. I know he's a fictional character, but I honestly wish Isaiah Rhodes was real, because he felt real to me. Number 4 spot is gonna go to The City of Brass, and when it comes to world buildings, this book had it all. You had a magical quest, you had monsters, you had magic, you had beautiful characters. It literally had everything that you could want in a high fantasy book, and then some. So in this book, we follow Nari and Dara. So Nari is someone that is a con artist. She doesn't believe in magic, but she uses magic as a way to like make her money and lie to people. One day, she is in a very tough spot, and in order to get out of it, she starts saying words to herself to bring herself comfort. And while she is saying these words, she doesn't know that she's actually conjuring a spirit, which is very old Jinn warrior named Dara. When Nari conjures Dara, she actually unlocks her power that she didn't know that she had, and when she does that, it triggers a lot of other monsters to realize what Nari actually is and how she can be used. So then Dara becomes her protector, and he tries to take her to the City of Brass, which is the only place that he thinks that she would be protected. And then while she's there, her presence alone is enough to rile people up and kind of get the flames going to reignite a war that has been simmering for a long time. So when I say this book has a lot of moving pieces, I absolutely mean it. This is high fantasy. The world building is absolutely insane. This is a trilogy, so there are 2 more books in the series, and this is one that I will absolutely be finishing in 2025. That's something that I'm really bad at, is just completely finishing series, and I told myself going into the next year that I just need to finish a series. I'm so bad at starting it and then getting distracted by something else. In the number 3 spot, we have When the Moon Hatched. I don't think I will ever shut up about this book. This is one that is worth all of the hype. I read it, annotated it, and I was avoiding it for so long because it was all over Book Talk. I tried to attempt to avoid books that are overly hyped on Book Talk because they don't always live up to the hype, but this one absolutely did it. So this book follows around Rave and Khan. So Rave is an assassin that doesn't have any family left, doesn't have any connections, and she is just looking to get revenge for the murder of her best friend. While she is trying to get revenge, she ends up being captured, and she has to align herself with Khan who is a king in order to survive. And she has no idea Khan's true identity at the time. She does know that he's a king, but she doesn't know the king of what. So then they go on this magical quest of Khan trying to bring Nari back to his home to give her like a safe haven. And then while you're following them around with this magical quest of trying to get her back to a safe location, you then also start to learn that Rave doesn't even really know who she is. When we learned who Rave was, my mind was completely shattered, because there are also more details that are shared within the story. And that's what I loved about this character and how she wrote this book, is that you get so many puzzle pieces at the beginning of the book and in the middle and here and there, and you don't really know how everything is aligning because you're still getting used to the world and the characters. And then when you finally get to the moment that's like, haha, and everything clicks, you're like, how did I not see that? It was fabulous. It was amazing. And I cannot wait to read the next book in the series. It also does have dragons in it. So if you're somebody like me that loves books with dragons, that one is perfect for you. In the number 2 spot, we have The Book That Wouldn't Burn. This is a book that as soon as I finished it, I stayed staring off into space. This is another book that has a really great world building. It is high fantasy. It is more of a sci-fi with time traveling. And when you realize that it has time traveling in it, you're gonna be hooked. You're not gonna want to put it down. This book follows Lavira and Ivar. So Ivar has been trapped within a magical library for a very long time, and he went into the library through a book to try and escape a war that was happening. Lavira lives in a different time period, and she begins to work at this magical library, not knowing that it is magical and that Ivar is trapped within a book within the library. So Lavira is a very curious child when we first meet her, and she goes into this library. She begins to realize that there's more sections to the library that anyone has told her about, and some sections are even blocked off. Of course, the king doesn't want anybody to know what the library actually is or the power behind the library. So then she begins to just figure everything out on her own, and eventually she finds Ivar. And from there, I'm not going to tell you anymore because you just need to experience it for yourself. But let me just tell you, it's very epic. Not only are you traveling from location to location, but you're traveling through centuries, through time periods. You go in the past, you go in the future. It just absolutely blew my mind, and I don't know what else I could tell you to have you pick up this book. It's one of my absolute favorites from 2024, and this is one that I did immediately dive into book 2 because the way that the cliffhanger happened, I could not accept it. I needed to know more. So right now I am waiting for book 3 to release, and I cannot wait. I believe it should be releasing in 2025, but you know, release dates change sometimes. I'm hoping this one doesn't. And then my top read of the year is going to be A Love Letter to Whiskey. Oh my god, I love this book. Oh, this is my baby. In A Love Letter to Whiskey, you follow Jamie and Bee, who are 2 best friends, and their love story over the span of 10 years. This book puts your emotions through the ringer. It is as angsty as it gets. It is extremely emotional. I didn't cry while reading this book, but I was deep in my feelings because I really wanted the best for these characters. I wanted them to be together, and it was like right person, wrong time, and every single moment you thought they were going to be together, something else happened and they were not together. So to tell you a little bit about the story, we have Jamie and Bee that meet in high school, and it's kind of like love at first sight. Well, Bee falls in love with Jamie immediately, but then Jamie has the eyes for Bee's best friend. So then he starts dating her best friend while they're in high school, and Bee is just the supportive best friend that is secretly in love with her best friend's boyfriend. I know that sounds weird, but it's not a love triangle, I promise you. So from there, Bee and Jamie are best of friends. They get very close together, but that's just that. They're just friends, nothing more, even though we know Bee loves Jamie. So from there, he breaks up with Bee's best friend, and you think, oh, this is the moment they're gonna get together. No, the man ends up leaving for college, and then they get separated yet again. So that's kind of what the story happens. It's like you think they're gonna be together, then they're not, and then they're finally in the same city, and then they get separated again and again and again and again. And oh my god, my emotions were all over the place when I read this book. This is a book that maybe you should read it if you want to be in your feelings, if you want to torture yourself for a little bit. Why the hell not? It sounds like a good time. Who doesn't like a little bit of pain while they're reading their books? You know what I'm saying? I just devoured that book. I think about it once a day. There's like before and after you read A Love Letter to Whiskey. It just alters your brain chemistry. But yeah, these are the top 10 books that I read in 2024 that I would definitely recommend to every single buddy that loves to read. If you like fantasy, there's one in here for you. If you like romance, there's one in here for you as well. If you read any of them, please let me know so we can talk about it. And I want to hear, what are your top reads of 2024, or just your top 3 that you're like, I need other people to hear about this book and read it so they can know how good it is. Drop those titles in the comments so I can add them to my TBR. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye for now.